In today's video, I'm reviewing a 2006 Land Rover LR3. The LR3 is the third generation model of the Land Rover Discovery, although it lost the Discovery name during the third and fourth generations, making a reappearance with the introduction of the fifth generation model in 2017. The Land Rover Discovery was first introduced to market in 1994 and quickly earned a reputation as being one of the most luxurious and off-road capable SUVs of all time. The LR3 spanned from 2004 to 2009. Now, with the introduction of the LR3, Land Rover tried to make the Discovery model a much more mainstream vehicle, really appealing to more of a premium audience rather than a niche off-road segment. And with the LR3, you still get a vehicle that's very off-road capable, but it offers much better ride quality. It's a much more comfortable vehicle with a lot more features, and overall, really a better day-to-day vehicle, although it lost a lot of the character and styling that we saw in that original Discovery model. Personally, I was a huge fan of the original Discovery, which had a very unique overall style to it, very tall and skinny, as you see with the LR3. But one of the unique features is that it had little skylights that were up above the rear of the vehicle, bringing light into the vehicle. And while this does have sunroofs, three actually, at each row of the vehicle, it doesn't quite have the same allure that you got with the Discovery. Not to say that it isn't still a great looking vehicle, because it really is cool. I think the problem is that people compare it to that Discovery model. If the LR3 had come out as a standalone vehicle, it would have been initially recognized with a lot of excitement and enthusiasm, but because they were doing away with the iconic styling of the original Discovery, I think it got in the way a little bit in that sense. With the introduction of the LR3, the model really took a lot of the same styling cues that you see in the Range Rover and put it into a slightly different form. And so in a lot of ways, this model is a lot more like the Range Rover than it is the Discovery. In some ways, that gives it a little bit more premium look. It's much more boxy. The front grille and headlight design is very comparable to that Range Rover model. And while the LR3 does take a lot of overall styling cues from the Range Rover model, it does have a very unique personality of its own. In general, it's a much taller, skinnier profile than what you get with the Range Rover, which is a little bit more short and wide. Also, a number of styling cues throughout the vehicle that are very common with that Range Rover model. This side gill on the front fender. Wheel designs are very similar. Definitely falls in line with the rest of the Land Rover lineup in terms of styling. And it is a good looking vehicle, despite some of my disappointment with their departure from the original design language of the Discovery. The LR3 really is a great looking vehicle. It's got a very unique style to it, and it's uniquely British. This rear hatch is definitely a unique styling cue of the LR3. Seems like there should be a wheel mounted on the back, but for whatever reason there isn't. Just has a slightly disproportionate style to it. And just as we saw in the Discovery model, where it feels a little bit taller in the back, you do still get that same profile with the LR3. You can see that the roof line juts up the middle of the vehicle, giving you a little bit more headroom, an airier feel in the back of the vehicle, although it's not as pronounced as what you get in the Discovery. Paying a little bit of tribute to that model. And for what it's worth, even though the new 5th generation model of the Discovery is really a great looking vehicle as well, it further departs from the original design language of the Discovery. At least the LR3 and the LR4 stood by that in some sense. Now, where the LR3 really improves when compared with the 2nd generation model of the Discovery is on the interior. And while the previous Discovery tried really hard to offer a very premium interior, overall the design of the vehicle just didn't really allow for it. It was kind of an awkward overall position that you sat in the vehicle. It wasn't that comfortable, didn't offer a great overall ride, and with the LR3 that's all corrected. It's got a really great interior, a nice overall design, high quality materials, and it's on par with the Range Rover in terms of features and functionality. Really great vehicle. And it does come very heavily loaded with features. You'll see that we've got power windows and door locks, as well as power mirrors. It's got a Harman Kardon audio system, so really great audio characteristics. power driver seat here in full leather. These armrests are kind of unique. They've got this little mechanism here that you can lock to adjust the position of this to your preference. On the steering wheel, we have controls for cruise control as well as audio and some voice activated features as well as Bluetooth. Center console is lacking a navigation system. This is a more base model. You'll see in the middle we've got controls for parking sensors, door locks, traction control, FM radio, AM radio, CD player, and then you can also connect through auxiliary input with an MP3 player or phone. Got integrated Bluetooth. Climate control settings for driver and passenger, so we've got dual zone there. Air conditioning and heating, obviously. Cup holders, automatic transmission, electronic parking brake. In the middle here, we've got controls for off-road features on the vehicle. The LR3 is very capable off-road, and these systems really help it to achieve in that sense. On the left-hand side here, we've got controls for air suspension, so you can raise and lower the vehicle. In the middle, we've got hill descent control, and on the right-hand side, you can shift between 4 low and 4 high. Technically, the LR3 is an all-wheel drive vehicle, so the 4-wheel drive is always activated, but having that ability to shift between 4 high and 4 low really helps it to perform in off-road situations. And then in the middle there's a rotary knob. That's part of the terrain response system that allows you to select various terrain. So grass, gravel, snow, mud and ruts, sand, or rock. And by shifting between these 4 different settings, the vehicle will actually adjust a number of different settings on the vehicle: the HDC, electronic throttle, ride height, ABS braking, traction control, gear change points, stability control, and the center and rear differentials. So it really optimizes that performance. Really kind of a cool system. In the middle here, we've got a center console. Looks like that's broken, but see there, got quite a bit of space. It looks like this little guy maybe sets right there, so maybe it's not broken, it was just in there wrong. And then over on the passenger side, we've got a couple different compartments here. Glove box, so plenty of space to store things. Up top, got controls for HomeLink garage door opener, so you can program up to 3 garage door openers into the mirror. We've got controls for the sunroof on this front row, and then you've got that little shade screen there. So you look into the back of the vehicle, there's actually 3 sunroofs, so it brings a lot of light into the cabin. Unfortunately, this front sunroof is the only one that opens, but they do all have those shades. As we go into the second row of the vehicle, you'll see that it's very spacious. Lots of leg and headroom. Got those speakers, so great sound characteristics in the back as well. Some nice cubby space in the door. This has some aftermarket TVs. That's not a standard feature. Built into the headrest there. Vents to bring air into the back of the vehicle, and then this little guy flips up. You'll see that we've got a 12-volt outlet and auxiliary input, as well as a little compartment there. Got controls for climate in the rear with vents in the ceiling. Give you another view of those sunroofs. All 3 of these seats actually fold down, so fold that down if you've got an object that needs to fit through the middle. Likewise, you can fold that down. So all 3 of those fold down. Gives you a lot of functionality with making adjustments. And then you'll see that we've got 3rd row seat in the back as well. So the LR3 has seating for up to 7. It's the only Land Rover that has seating for 7. So compared with the Range Rover model, which only has seating for 5, that's one definite advantage with this vehicle. You'll see that we've got this seat in position. Other one folds flat into the floor. So they both fold flat into the floor, but I've got one in the floor to give you kind of that comparison. And you'll see that with the design the way it is, there's actually pretty decent leg room. You can get those feet down low. And then to access that 3rd row seat, this guy pulls up, providing pretty good access to the third row. So coming around to the back of the vehicle, this rear hatch is two different pieces, which is really handy. You can open up this top portion, and if you got a lot of groceries or other objects in the back, they won't immediately fall out of the vehicle, which is really handy. Never a fan of single hatch systems on SUVs. Really nice to be able to open it up in this capacity. And then if you've got larger objects or you want to get full access to the back of the vehicle, push this button here and this little tailgate folds down. So pretty handy little setup. You will see that with that third row seat in use, that cargo capacity is going to be pretty limited. So it's kind of an either or situation. If you've got 7 passengers, you probably won't be able to get cargo for all 7 passengers in. But if these seats are folded down, then there's a lot of cargo space. Putting the seats down from the rear is not as convenient as other vehicles. It's kind of a tricky little setup. So I've got to reach around to a little strap up here, and then that guy will fold flat. And then I've got to reach for this lever here to fold down the seat. It does fold down very flat once you do that, but it's kind of an awkward setup. Likewise, putting the seat back up is a little bit complicated from the rear of the vehicle. But you will see that once it's down, a lot of cargo space. The LR3 is offered with 2 different engine options. The base engine is a 4-liter 6-cylinder with 216 horsepower, and then this model has a 4.4-liter 8-cylinder derived from the same 4.2 that you'll see in the Jaguar XJ8. Output is 300 horsepower with 315 pound-feet of torque, channeled through a 6-speed automatic transmission. The EPA rating on this model is 13 miles per gallon in the city and 17 on the highway. The 6-cylinder is only going to see a 1 mile per gallon improvement on the highway and the same performance in the city. My parents actually considered buying a brand new Land Rover Discovery back in 2003, and then they went out and drove some of the competition and quickly realized that the Discovery really wasn't competitive. It was a very outdated vehicle, not that comfortable, very loud, didn't offer really great ride quality, it was underpowered, very fuel inefficient, and they decided to buy something else. And I think that there were a lot of buyers doing the same thing. It was kind of a niche vehicle, definitely very iconic in terms of styling, but when it really came down to it, it wasn't a vehicle that the mainstream was buying. And when Land Rover came out with the LR3, I think they really tried to rectify that, come out with a vehicle that still had the same off-road capability, offered a unique style, but also was a very practical vehicle for the mainstream, and they did very well with the LR3. It's very comfortable, very quiet, very smooth, very powerful, and a really great overall day-to-day vehicle, but it still offers that unique styling, and it's just very off-road capable. And so really good in that sense. As far as critiques on the LR3, one thing that you definitely notice is that it's a very heavy vehicle. Despite the fact that it's got that 4.4-liter V8 with 300 horsepower, it it feels powerful when you push on the throttle, but it's not quick because it's such a heavy vehicle. We'll give you a little demonstration of that right here, just accelerating kind of hard. So you can see it's got a really nice throaty sound to it, a little bit of delay in it kicking in, and it just isn't that quick because it's such a heavy vehicle. And so that's one thing to keep in mind. If you're looking at some of the other premium SUVs within this segment, a lot more of those are going to be more road focused. The fact that this is such an off-road capable vehicle does mean that it doesn't perform quite as well in on-road conditions. It is really impressive driving the LR3 and comparing it to the Range Rover model. I've had a chance to drive the standard Range Rover and the Range Rover Sport, and the LR3 is equally luxurious, same level of overall quality it seems in the interior as those models, but coming at a much more competitive price point makes it a really appealing offering, especially compared with the Range Rover. So that's a review of the 2006 Land Rover LR3. If you can get away from comparing this to the iconic styling of the first and second generation Discoveries, it really is a great SUV, and in a lot of ways it's a huge improvement over the Discovery. It drives better, it has better performance, it's more comfortable, quieter, way more luxury features, and really just a much more enjoyable vehicle to drive on a daily basis. And the other thing that's really great about the LR3 is that if you compare it to the Range Rover, it actually has a lot in common with it in terms of the off-road capability, the overall styling, the quality and luxury features that you get on the interior. It really is in many ways on par with that Range Rover model, but you're getting it at a much more competitive price point. And so from that sense, it really is a great value. And there aren't many other SUVs on the market that match the LR3 in terms of off-road capability and luxury features. If you're in the market for an off-road capable luxury SUV, the LR3 is definitely worth your consideration. But one thing to keep in mind is that Land Rovers don't have the best reputation for long-term reliability. It's something that you want to factor in when you buy one. One thing that kind of balances out the cost of repairs on a Land Rover is that they have really poor resale value. And so if you're looking to get into a used Land Rover, you're saving a lot of money up front, especially from what these cost as new vehicles. And so you can get into a Land Rover for a really reasonable price, but you want to budget for the possibility of some of those repairs long term. If you have any comments or questions on the Land Rover LR3, leave them in the section below. For more car reviews, subscribe to my channel. In the meantime, thanks for watching.